This is one of the best examples of leadership in modern film. Not because he's necessarily the strongest ape, and not only because he's the smartest, although he probably is, in all honesty. And clearly, everyone doesn't just follow him for no reason, as we see at the beginning of the first movie, when he's taken away and put into the animal or the ape sanctuary, so to speak. He's definitely bottom of the pack. So yeah, he's a great leader because he understands something that most people these days in power forget. So leadership isn't about being above everyone else. It's not merely a status symbol. It's about carrying the responsibility for everyone else. All right. And throughout the Planet of the Apes trilogy, we see Caesar constantly put the good of his people / apes above his own comfort and his own safety, and sometimes his own happiness even. So as we can see, leadership is meant to be a sacrifice. But Caesar wasn't without his mistakes, of course, because the same compassion and the desire to see the good in everyone blinded Caesar to the danger of Koba. And that's where his leadership becomes quite interesting. Because if you want to lead like Caesar, you need his courage and compassion and a sense of responsibility. But you also need to learn from his error. So you can't let emotion cloud your judgment or loyalty bind you to someone's character. And a big issue arises when you only see the good in others and neglect to acknowledge any signs of ill intent. And although Caesar somewhat acknowledged it, he didn't seem to take it seriously. He thought it was just a blip or, Koba acting up. And it wasn't going to lead to anything. So this was sort of, I would say, negligence in a way from Caesar. But yeah, going back to the positives now, his first great quality is that he doesn't lead for himself. From the beginning, he doesn't just want power so he can dominate or be the alpha male in the group. When he rises up against the humans, he's not just trying to escape himself, and we see this when he goes and frees the other apes at the testing facility. I forget what it's called. Maybe he could have run himself. He also had the pack from the ape sanctuary, but instead he goes back and puts himself in danger to rescue these apes that are being experimented on. Okay, and so this tells us something pretty important about Caesar, that he doesn't see freedom as something he should keep for himself. He sees freedom as something he has a duty to share with his people. I'm just going to use people from now on, because with his apes just sounds weird. Okay. And he's very, very much sort of personified throughout the movie trilogy. And that's one of the first marks of real leadership. Right? So sharing the fruits of his labor with his people, basically. A leader doesn't say, I'm safe, so that's enough. A leader says, if I'm strong enough to get out, then I'm strong enough to help others get out too. And inevitably, that's why the apes end up following Caesar, not because he scares them or he shouts the loudest or he's the most intimidating, but because he's proven that he'll suffer for them and he'll sacrifice himself for them, for the good of the tribe. And people will follow someone who's willing to suffer for their good. That's true in a tribe, a family, in a team, business, or anywhere else in sort of modern life. If the people under you can see that you only care about your own comfort, they'll never truly respect you. And people notice these things. You might think that, they don't know. You kind of put on a facade, but people can see through that facade quite easily. You can always tell if someone's a bit of a sleazebag, even if they're trying to put on a face. But yeah. So these people might obey you for a while. They might do what you say because they have to, but deep down, they'll know you're not really their leader. They're not following you. You're just the person in power. And Caesar's different, of course. He earns their loyalty because he carries the burden first. He serves his people, and he doesn't ask the apes to sacrifice while he protects himself. So he doesn't send others into danger while he sits comfortably in safety. Again and again, Caesar puts himself between his people and the threat, and that's why his authority feels natural. He doesn't need to constantly remind the apes that he's in charge. They already know. And that's because he's shown them simply through his actions, which is the difference between respect and fear. Fear can make people obey you when you're watching, and respect keeps them loyal when you're not in the room. So these people will have your back, basically. And this is where Caesar and Koba become perfect opposites. So Koba's strong, and I think we can safely say he's brave. He's suffered as well, and you can sympathize with the character, of course. I think we've all felt wronged at some point in our lives and wanted to retaliate, and Koba gives into that, obviously. So he has real reasons to hate humans. He was experimented on and tortured, treated like an object. So when he sees Caesar trying to make peace with the humans for the betterment of his civilization, he doesn't see wisdom. He doesn't see the bigger picture. He sees betrayal, because Koba is interested in revenge at the detriment of anything else. So in Koba's mind, Caesar's compassion looks like weakness, and that's a mistake that bitter people often make. So they think mercy is weakness, and patience is cowardice. Restraint means you're afraid to act, but Caesar's weak. He is probably the only ape strong enough, one of the only apes, I think Maurice probably is another one, to hold back the anger that everyone else wants to give into. Okay, I think that's where the real strength lies, is resisting the temptation to retaliate. Anyone can lash out and let pain turn into hatred, and sort of let it manifest and into action and damage. But Caesar tries to think beyond the immediate emotion. He understands that if the apes go to war with the humans, the apes will suffer too. There'll be casualties, and even if they defeat enemies, they'll be burying their own. And in life, there are moments where you can win the argument, but damage the relationship. You can prove a point, but lose someone's trust, right? So we need to weigh up the pros and cons before every major decision is made, particularly major decision that could possibly cause collateral damage. So you can punish someone harshly, for example, but then create more resentment than order, even if they deserve to be, they've done something wrong. You want to deal with that situation in a way that doesn't create resentment. And leadership means thinking beyond the emotional satisfaction of the moment. And Caesar usually does that well, but not always. So Caesar's biggest weakness is that he wants to believe the best about Koba. And you can understand why. Koba's one of his own, obviously. And he suffered terribly. He fought beside him. So he isn't just some random enemy outside the gates. He's part of the group, and that's what makes the situation so difficult for Caesar. It's much easier to identify danger when it comes from an obvious enemy. It's much harder when it comes from someone close to you. So someone who suffered with you, or who speaks the language of loyalty while quietly growing, full of resentment. Caesar sees Koba's pain, but he doesn't fully recognize what that pain has turned into and the danger it might cause. And this is where compassion meets prudence, because compassion is good, mercy is good, forgiveness is good, but none of those things mean you should ignore patterns and become complacent. Koba repeatedly shows Caesar who he's becoming. There are signs of this. He doesn't simply disagree with Caesar. He undermines him, he accuses him, he lets his hatred of humans become more important than the survival of the apes. Obviously, we see this when he attempts to kill Caesar, and then kills other apes as well in the battle. And when Caesar challenges him, Koba pretends to submit. But inside, nothing has changed, clearly. And that's one of the hardest lessons of leadership, is that not every apology is repentance. Sometimes people don't regret what they did. They only regret that they lost, that they got caught. And if you give someone like that power again, too quickly, or even at all, really, you're not being merciful, you're being careless with the people who depend on you. So this is Caesar's great mistake. I mean, clearly he gave Koba quite a lot of responsibility, and judging by his behaviors, he should have never been given that responsibility. Certainly not. So he shows mercy to Koba, but he doesn't put enough boundaries around him. And he doesn't seem to fully understand that Koba's rebellion isn't just a moment of anger, it's a character problem. And character matters. Look, as a leader, you can't only judge people by their pain and try to empathize with them. You have to judge them by what they do with their pain. So Caesar suffers too, but his suffering makes him protective. Koba suffers, and his suffering makes him cruel. And that's the difference. Both of them have wounds, but Caesar doesn't let his wounds become an excuse to destroy everything around him, which Koba does. So when Koba finally betrays Caesar, it doesn't just hurt Caesar personally, it puts all the apes in danger. And basically, saying that Caesar's complacency led to the endangerment of all the apes. And that's why emotional judgment matters so much in leadership. If you make decisions based only on personal affection, guilt, fear, anger, pity, or other people end up paying for your lack of clarity. A father can't lead his family that way. A captain can't lead his team that way. Business owners can't lead their people that way. You can be kind, you should be kind, but you cannot be blind. So there's a difference between giving someone a second chance and giving them the knife again. Like, maybe give them a plastic knife if they really want one. But giving them the knife, you're bound to get stabbed in the back. But what is powerful about Caesar is that he doesn't stop being compassionate after Koba betrays him. A weaker man would have gone immediately, just completely cold. He would have said, "Look, I trusted someone, I got betrayed, so now I'll never show mercy again." But Caesar doesn't become Koba, and that's important, because the lesson isn't never trust anyone. It's not crush anyone who disagrees with you, it's balance. A good leader needs a warm heart and clear eyes. If you only have a warm heart, people can manipulate you. If you only have clear eyes without compassion, you become cruel. And Caesar's greatness is that he keeps trying to hold both together. And it's it's a fine balance. It's difficult to find that balance. And you see this especially in the third film. By this point, Caesar has every reason to hate humans. His family's been killed. His people have been hunted. He's carrying grief, rage, and exhaustion, and for a while he does start to lose himself. He becomes focused on revenge, and he leaves the wider mission and goes after the colonel. And this is where the story becomes more than just apes fighting humans, because now Caesar starts becoming what he hated in Koba. This is an internal battle between Caesar and himself. So Koba was ruled by pain, and he let the hatred take command, and now Caesar feels that same temptation inside him. And that's why leadership always starts with self-mastery. Before you can lead other people well, you need to be able to lead yourself. Your anger, your grief, and your pride cannot be king. Because if your emotions are in charge, then you're not really leading, you're not thinking clearly, and you're not being calculated about your decision making. You're just reacting. And people who react emotionally are easy to manipulate. All someone has to do is provoke them, insult them, threaten them, touch the wound they haven't healed yet, and they lose control. Caesar nearly falls into that, but he doesn't fall all the way. He recognizes what he's doing and what he's becoming, and that matters because a great leader is not someone who never feels anger. That's obviously not realistic. A great leader feels anger, but doesn't let that anger make the final decision. He feels grief, but he doesn't let the grief destroy his duty. He feels the desire for revenge, but doesn't let revenge become his purpose. So that's what separates Caesar from Koba. Now, this doesn't mean that as a leader, retaliation is never warranted, but that decision must be a calculated one, not one made out of emotions and recklessness. So this translates perfectly into real-world scenarios, whether it's waiting to cool down before disciplining your child or lashing out in frustration on the sports field and getting yourself sent off at the detriment of your team. So no matter your situation or walk of life, this lesson is particularly applicable. Now, the trick is not pretending you have no emotions. You lead like Caesar by refusing to be ruled by them. So you must acknowledge your weaknesses and your bad tendencies and actively work to circumnavigate them and avoid giving into your impulses. Once you have acknowledged them, it makes it far easier to put up guardrails. So what can we actually learn from Caesar? Well, first, put the people you're responsible for above your ego. If you're leading, the question can't always be, how do I look? It has to be, what do they need from me? Because sometimes they'll need strength, patience, or they'll need you to make a decision that they won't understand yet. So you may be the bad guy in the short term. But if it means the betterment of your people in the long term, then it's a sacrifice that has to be made. But if your leadership is mainly about proving yourself, you'll eventually sacrifice the group for your own pride. And Caesar luckily doesn't do that. At his best, he carries the responsibility as a burden, not a trophy. Second, earn respect instead of demanding fear. So fear is quick, but it's unstable. You can scare people into obedience, but you can't scare them into loyalty. Respect takes longer because it's built through consistency. People watch how you act under pressure. They watch whether you're fair, whether you tell the truth, you're willing to sacrifice. And look, so it's important that you hold yourself to your morals and don't waver under pressure. Now, third, be compassionate without being naive. This might be the most important lesson, as good leaders don't become suspicious of everyone. That's not wisdom. That's paranoia. Okay. So Netanyahu, for example, probably is not sabotaging your life as much as you might believe he is. Or maybe he is, actually. Maybe that was a bad example. He probably is. But good leaders also don't ignore repeated warning signs. So when someone shows resentment, dishonesty, cruelty, or disloyalty again and again, you need to take that seriously and nip it in the bud. So you can forgive someone without giving them influence. You can care about someone without trusting their judgment. and you can understand someone's pain without letting them damage everyone else. So Caesar's compassion makes him noble, but his failure to properly guard against Koba nearly costs his people everything. And fourth, listen to the people around you. Caesar is not alone. He has Maurice, Rocket, Luca, and others who help balance him. And that's important because even the strong leaders have blind spots. Sometimes someone close to you can see what your emotions won't let you see. But you have to be humble enough to listen. So if you surround yourself with only yes men, it might feel nice in the moment, good for the ego, but eventually you'll become weaker. Because you will not address the flaws that you are blind to. A good leader needs people who can tell him the truth. Now finally, master yourself before you try to master others. This is the deepest lesson, and Koba wants control over everyone else because he has no control over himself. Caesar's different. He struggles and he falls at times, but he keeps coming back to the responsibility placed on him. He remembers that his people need a leader, not a man consumed by revenge. And that's what makes him great. Not perfection, not endless calm or some emotionless idea of strength, but the ability to suffer, to feel anger, to feel grief, and still choose duty. Caesar's story teaches us that leadership isn't about being the loudest, harshest, or most feared. It's about being the kind of person others can safely depend on. So strong enough to fight, but wise enough to know when to hold back. Koba believed leadership meant making others fear him. Caesar understood something greater. And real leadership is when people follow you because they trust you, not because they're terrified of what you'll do if they don't. And that's why Caesar wasn't just a ruler, he was a leader. Because he didn't use his people to serve his emotions, he mastered his emotions to serve his people.